Father chose favorite son over me, so built my own company and his business collapsed. What would you do if your own father betrayed you? If the business you built with your blood, sweat, and tears was handed to someone who did absolutely nothing to deserve it? Well, that's exactly what happened to me. And let me tell you, karma doesn't forget. This is the story of how my father chose his golden child over me, lost everything, and came crawling back when it was already too late. Stick around, because this story has more twists than you can imagine. And trust me, you won't believe how it ends. Before we dive in, if you enjoy stories about family drama, justice, and sweet karma, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You don't want to miss what happens next. Now, let's get into it. My name is Marcus, and for as long as I can remember, I was never my father's favorite. That honor belonged to my younger brother, Daniel, the golden boy, the prince who could do no wrong. While I was out there getting my hands dirty, learning the ropes of our family's event decoration business, Daniel was living his best life, partying with friends, chasing dreams that changed every other week, and basically doing everything except actually working. But here's the thing, I didn't mind. Not at first anyway. I loved the business. I loved transforming empty spaces into magical venues where people celebrated the biggest moments of their lives. Weddings, corporate events, birthday parties, you name it. There was something incredibly satisfying about seeing a client's face light up when they walked into a room we de-decorated. It was art, it was business, and it was mine. Well, ours. My father's and mine. Let me take you back to the beginning. Our decoration business wasn't always successful. When my dad first started it, it was just him, a small garage full of supplies, and a dream. I was 16 when I started helping him after school. While other kids were hanging out at the mall or playing video games, I was learning how to properly drape fabric, set up lighting rigs, and deal with demanding clients who changed their minds at the last minute. My father taught me everything. How to negotiate with vendors, how to create a design that matched a client's vision, how to manage a team during the chaos of event setup. But more than that, he taught me the value of hard work, dedication, and building relationships with clients. At least, I thought he valued those things. By the time I was 25, I wasn't just helping anymore. I was running the show. I had taken our small local business and expanded it into something remarkable. I brought in social media marketing, created a portfolio website, and most importantly, I built genuine relationships with our clients. They trusted me. They knew that when Marcus was handling their event, everything would be perfect. We went from doing maybe 2 events a month to sometimes 3 or 4 events in a single weekend. Our revenue tripled in just 3 years. We hired more staff, bought better equipment, and moved into a proper office space with a warehouse. I was proud. I thought my father was proud too. He'd slap me on the back after a successful event and say things like, "Good job, son. You're really taking this to the next level." But I should have seen the signs. I should have noticed that no matter how much I accomplished, no matter how many clients praised my work, my father's eyes would always light up just a little bit brighter when Daniel walked into the room. Daniel, meanwhile, was living a completely different life. After barely graduating college, he bounced from job to job. First, he wanted to be a musician. That lasted about 8 months until he realized that actually practicing an instrument was hard work. Then he wanted to be a fitness influencer. He bought expensive camera equipment, posted shirtless selfies for a few weeks, and gave up when he didn't get famous overnight. Next was cryptocurrency trading, then drop shipping, then some multi-level marketing scheme that I'm pretty sure was borderline illegal. Through all of this, my father supported him. Financially, emotionally, you name it. Daniel could do no wrong in his eyes. And me? I was just expected to keep the business running, keep the money coming in, keep being the responsible one. No praise necessary. That was just my job. The tension really started building about 2 years ago. My father was getting older, approaching retirement age, and people started asking questions about succession. Clients would joke, "So Marcus, when are you officially taking over?" Staff members would come to me with concerns and ideas, naturally assuming I was going to be the next owner. Even our accountant referred to me as the successor in a meeting once. I assumed it too. Why wouldn't I? I had built this business alongside my father. I knew every client, every vendor, every single aspect of the operation. It was my life. But then Daniel decided he was interested in the business. Out of nowhere, after years of failed ventures and zero interest in what we did, he suddenly wanted to be involved. He started showing up to the office occasionally, asking questions, sitting in on client meetings. My father was thrilled. Absolutely thrilled. He'd introduced Daniel to clients like he was some kind of prodigy, even though Daniel barely knew the difference between uplighting and downlighting. I tried to be supportive. I really did. I showed Daniel the ropes, included him in projects, attempted to teach him what I knew, but he wasn't interested in learning. He was interested in the idea of running a business, in the status, in telling people he was an entrepreneur. The actual work? Not so much. He'd show up late to events, forget important details, make promises to clients that we couldn't keep, and then disappear when things got tough. I was constantly covering for him, fixing his mistakes, smoothing things over with angry clients. It was exhausting. I tried talking to my father about it. I'd say, "Dad, Daniel isn't ready for this. He needs more training, more time." But my father would wave me off. "He's learning. Give him a chance. You were young once too." But I wasn't like Daniel when I was young. I was working my tail off, learning, growing, actually contributing. This wasn't the same thing, and deep down, my father knew it. He just didn't want to admit that his golden child wasn't perfect. Then came the day that changed everything. My father called a family meeting. Just him, me, and Daniel. I thought maybe we were going to discuss expansion plans or new marketing strategies. I walked into his office with a folder full of ideas I'd been working on. My father looked uncomfortable, which should have been my first clue. He cleared his throat and said, "Boys, I've been thinking a lot about the future of this business. I'm getting older, and it's time to think about who's going to take over when I step back." My heart started racing. This was it. The moment I'd been waiting for. All those years of hard work were about to pay off. Then he said the words that shattered my world. "I've decided to hand the business over to Daniel." I actually laughed. I thought he was joking. But when I looked at his face, I realized he was dead serious. Daniel was smirking, trying to hide it, but failing miserably. He looked like he'd just won the lottery. "What?" I finally managed to say. "Dad, are you serious right now?" He wouldn't meet my eyes. Daniel is younger. He has fresh ideas, and I think it's his turn to lead the family business into the future. Fresh ideas? The guy who D's shown up to maybe 10% of our events in the past year had fresh ideas? I felt like I was in an alternate reality. "Dad, I've been running this business for years," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "I've built the client relationships, trained the staff, managed the finances. Daniel barely knows how to set up a centerpiece." "That's not fair," Daniel interjected. "I've been learning." "Learning?" I turned to him. "You've been playing around while I've been doing the actual work. You can't just show up and expect to run something you know nothing about." My father's face hardened. "I've made my decision, Marcus. The business will go to Daniel. You can stay on as an employee if you want, maybe as a manager, but Daniel will be the owner." An employee? After everything I'd done, I was being demoted to an employee in the business I'd built, working under my incompetent little brother who'd contributed absolutely nothing. The argument that followed was ugly. I'm not proud of everything I said, but I wasn't about to roll over and accept this betrayal without a fight. I laid out everything. Every client I'd brought in, every system I'd implemented, every crisis I'd solved, while Daniel was off chasing his latest fantasy. My father's response? You're being selfish. Family means supporting each other, even when things don't go your way. Selfish. I was being selfish for expecting to be recognized for my work, for expecting basic fairness. That's when I realized something crucial. My father was never going to see me the way he saw Daniel. No matter what I accomplished, no matter how hard I worked, I would always be second place in his eyes. So I made a decision right there in that office. I looked at my father and said, "Fine, keep your business. Give it to your golden boy. But I'm done." I quit. My father looked shocked, like he couldn't believe I was actually walking away. "Marcus, don't be dramatic. Let's talk about this." But there was nothing left to talk about. I walked out of that office, went to my desk, and started making plans. If my father didn't value what I brought to the table, there were plenty of people who would. Our clients, for instance. I spent the next month working in quiet fury. I saved up every penny I could, cashed in some investments, and took out a small business loan. I found a modest office space, bought some basic equipment, and officially registered my own event decoration company. I called it Milestone Celebrations. A fresh start, a new chapter, a chance to build something that was truly mine. Now, here's where it gets interesting. I didn't poach clients. I didn't badmouth my father's business. I simply let people know that I was starting my own company and that I'd love to work with them if they were interested. I sent out professional announcements, updated my LinkedIn, and made a simple website. The response was overwhelming. Within 2 weeks, I had 5 clients book with me. Within a month, 15. These were people I'd worked with for years, people who trusted me, people who'd specifically requested me for their events, even when I worked for my father. They didn't care about the company name. They cared about the person doing the work. I'll never forget the first event I did independently. It was a wedding for a couple I'd worked with before when they hired us for their engagement party. When I told them I'd started my own business, they immediately canceled their contract with my father's company and rebooked with me. The wedding was absolutely beautiful. Everything went perfectly. And when the bride hugged me at the end of the night with tears in her eyes, thanking me for making her day so special, I knew I'd made the right decision. Meanwhile, back at my father's company, things were falling apart. Without me there to manage the operations, handle the clients, and clean up mistakes, the cracks started showing immediately. Daniel was completely overwhelmed. He had no idea how to manage the staff, how to handle the logistics of multiple events happening simultaneously, or how to deal with the inevitable problems that pop up in this industry. I heard through the grapevine that events were being delayed, decorations were showing up incomplete, and clients were complaining about poor communication. Several events apparently had major issues. Wrong color schemes, missing pieces, complete design failures. The kind of disasters that I had always prevented or fixed before they became catastrophes. And the clients kept coming to me. Not because I asked them to, but because they wanted quality service. They wanted someone who cared about their special day, someone with experience, someone they could trust. Word of mouth is everything in the event industry, and my reputation was solid. Within 6 months, I had poached probably 60% of my father's client base. Not through any malicious intent, but simply by existing and being good at what I do. My business was thriving, while my father's company was hemorrhaging money. I tried not to feel too satisfied about it, but I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a part of me that felt vindicated. This was proof. Proof that I was the one who'd been holding everything together. Proof that I deserved recognition for my work. Proof that my father had made a catastrophic mistake. The final blow came about 8 months after I'd left. I heard from a former colleague who still worked there that the company had just posted its worst quarter in over a decade. They'd lost so much money that my father had to let half the staff go. The office was basically empty. Daniel was apparently having a meltdown, completely unable to handle the pressure and the failure. And then my father called me. I saw his name on my phone screen and debated whether to answer. Part of me wanted to let it go to voicemail, to let him sit with his choices, but curiosity won out. "Hello?" I answered, keeping my voice neutral. "Marcus." His voice sounded tired, older somehow. "We need to talk." We met at a coffee shop, neutral territory. When I saw him walk in, I was shocked. He looked like he'd aged 5 years in 8 months. There were new lines on his face, more gray in his hair, a heaviness to his shoulders that hadn't been there before. He sat down across from me and didn't waste time with small talk. "I made a mistake," he said simply. "I should have given the business to you." "I can see that now." I waited. I wasn't going to make this easy for him. "Daniel can't handle it," he continued. "He's trying, but he just doesn't have what it takes. The business is failing, Marcus. We're losing clients, losing money. I don't know how much longer we can keep the doors open." "I know," I said. "I've heard." He looked surprised. "You've heard?" "Dad, it's a small industry. Word gets around." He nodded slowly, looking down at his hands. "I was wondering if maybe you'd consider coming back. Not as an employee, but as a partner. We could rebuild together, fix what's been broken." There it was. The offer I'd once dreamed of hearing. But the timing was all wrong, and the motivation was all wrong. "Why?" I asked. "Why did you give it to Daniel in the first place?" "I need to understand." My father was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he said, "Because I was worried about him. You've always been so capable, so independent. You were going to be fine no matter what. But Daniel, he needed this. He'd failed at everything else, and I thought if I gave him something important, something with structure already in place, he'd finally succeed. So you sacrificed my future to try to fix his." I said flatly. "I thought you'd understand. I thought family meant more than business." "Family does mean more than business, Dad. But what you did wasn't about family. It was about favoritism. It was about you refusing to see Daniel for who he really is, and refusing to see me for who I am." He didn't argue. He just sat there, looking defeated. "I can't come back," I told him. "I've built something of my own now, something I'm proud of, something that's successful because of my work, not despite it. I'm sorry the business is failing, but that's not my problem to fix. Marcus, please. This is our family legacy." "No, Dad, it's your legacy. And you chose who you wanted to carry it forward. You have to live with that choice." We sat in silence for a few more minutes. Finally, my father stood up. "I understand," he said quietly. "For what it's worth, I'm proud of what you've built. I should have told you that more often. It was too little, too late." But I nodded anyway. "Thanks, Dad." He walked away, and I sat there with my coffee, feeling a complicated mix of emotions. Vindication, yes. Sadness, definitely. Relief, surprisingly. And maybe a tiny bit of hope that someday, somehow, we could rebuild our relationship even if we couldn't rebuild the business together. That was 6 months ago. My business continues to grow. I've hired a team of talented people who share my vision and work ethic. We're booking events a year in advance now. I'm making more money than I ever did working for my father, and more importantly, I'm happy. I'm building something that's mine, on my own terms. My father's business? Last I heard, he's trying to sell it. There aren't many buyers interested in a failing event decoration company, but he's hoping to at least recoup some of his losses. Daniel apparently went back to school, which is probably the best decision he's made in years. My father and I talk occasionally now. Short phone calls, brief updates. The relationship is damaged, maybe permanently, but we're both trying. He's apologized multiple times, and I've accepted the apologies, even if I haven't fully forgiven the betrayal. The thing is, I don't hate my father. I'm angry at him, disappointed in him, hurt by him, but I don't hate him. He's still my dad. He made a terrible decision based on misguided love for his youngest son, and he paid the price for it. In a way, we all paid the price for it. But here's what I've learned from this whole experience. Your value doesn't come from other people's recognition. It comes from the work you do, the integrity you maintain, and the standards you set for yourself. I spent years seeking my father's approval, waiting for him to see me the way I wanted to be seen. But I didn't need his approval to be successful. I just needed to believe in myself. I also learned that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the best thing. If my father had given me the business, I would have been grateful, sure. But I also would have been tied to his vision, his methods, his legacy. By forcing me to walk away, he actually set me free to create something better, something that truly represents who I am and what I'm capable of. And finally, I learned that karma is real. Maybe not in the cosmic sense, but in the practical sense. When you make decisions based on favoritism instead of merit, when you take people for granted, when you fail to recognize and reward the people who are actually doing the work, there are consequences. My father learned that lesson the hard way. As for Daniel, I don't harbor any ill will toward him either. He was given an opportunity he wasn't ready for by a father who loved him, but didn't see him clearly. That's not really his fault. I hope he finds something he's genuinely good at and passionate about. Just hopefully not event decoration. So what's next for me? I'm thinking about expanding. Maybe opening a second location in a nearby city. I've also been approached about teaching workshops for people wanting to break into the event industry. And who knows? Maybe someday I'll write a book about my experience. Not out of bitterness, but because I think there's a valuable lesson here about family, business, and knowing your worth. To anyone listening who's in a similar situation, who feels undervalued or overlooked or betrayed by someone who should support you, here's my advice. Don't wait for recognition that might never come. Don't let other people's failure to see your value make you question your value. And don't be afraid to walk away from situations that don't serve you, even when it's scary, even when it's family, even when everyone expects you to just accept things the way they are. You are capable of more than you think. You can build something amazing if you're willing to take the risk, do the work, and believe in yourself even when nobody else does. Your family might not always see your worth, but that doesn't mean you're not worthy. Sometimes you have to prove it to yourself first, and the rest will follow. My father made his choice. He chose wrong, and he lost something valuable because of it. But I didn't lose. I won. I won my independence, my self-respect, and a thriving business that I built from nothing. And honestly, that's worth more than any inheritance ever could be. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more real-life experiences about family drama, business, and overcoming adversity, please hit that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment below telling me what you would have done in my situation. Would you have gone back to help your father? Would you have cut ties completely? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for listening to my story. Remember, you're worth more than other people's opinions of you. Go out there and prove it. To yourself first, and then to the world.